Hey everyone, I'm Mez, and today I'm bringing you a video on behalf of Method and Wowhead. We're going to look at our first series against making a movie at BlizzCon. It was definitely a series that we ended up being pretty afraid of, especially because A, they beat us at the most recent LAN, and B, they ended up having a comp that was quite strong to DH Moonkin, we thought, because of the Gnome racial. Gaypartis lets them get out of every root beam without even burning the trinket cooldown. So we're definitely really afraid of that. Wargames tended to kind of show that we were in a kind of less favorable spot, but later on in the tournament we actually ended up playing that matchup and they ended up doing great with it as well. But yeah, so we kind of decided about a week before that DK might be kind of important for us. So we started playing it at Chuck's house when we were landing in Wargames and a little bit online, and we found that we played DK. DH brings mana burn, brings reverse, brings darkness, and is really tough to kill. And the DK is also pretty tough to kill against Rogue Mage specifically, and brings an AMZ, Chains of Ice slow. And against the Priest variant, the ability to be both tanky and also run the Priest down. So that's kind of what we kind of wanted to try against this team. We thought it worked against, we didn't know they played a whole bunch of other comps. So going into it, we kind of thought, well, Rogue Mage Priest was the main thing. And then it turns out Ratapai plays an excellent Shaman. Obviously, Valet plays an amazing Shadow Priest as well. We didn't kind of expect them to play Mage Shadow Priest against us. But yeah, lots of different comps came out of them, and they played them all fantastically. So the matchups kind of went a little bit not as we expected, but at the same time, we were lucky that in the blind they ended up playing Rogue Mage, and we kind of had the right pick, I suppose. So we're starting the Grand Arena now, and like I said, we're kind of lucky they played Rogue Mage Priest. We're playing exactly when to play into Rogue Mage Priest. We kind of figured this was our comp against it. Again, our kind of game plan is we go in, we get on the Priest, and we try and interrupt the Mage. Mage is playing Fire in this instance as well, which I think is actually a tiny bit easier than Frost in this matchup, because the Fire Mage is so go based. We can kind of trade cooldowns for Combust, trade cooldowns for Vendetta, and then the in-between moments are not as scary. So we get a Chains of Ice. We actually, I think, have a reasonably good opener here. I think both teams have good openers, actually. There's a double Garrote. There's a blind right away on Chuck that he trinkets. We get the stun right away, I don't think anything from right at the start, but definitely a decent opener for us. We don't have to trade anything too major. Really just Chuck's trinket, the main thing. So here's Vendetta and Combust. We trade, I think, Shell, and we trade IBF in a second here as well, I believe. There's Barry from him as well, so we're getting Rada's cooldowns pretty quick, and Rada's also already lost 25% of his mana. There's IBF from me to try and survive against the tail end of Vendetta. We grip him out of that, out of his Barry, and stun him, but at the same time I grip him towards Chuck. Bit of a mistake on my end. Definitely could have gone better for us. And it starts to get pretty scary. We end up having to trade Link. Uses bomb, we trade Link. We don't actually use more than that, which I think is kind of cool. We definitely could have used a lot there. It was a scary moment, but Chuck was out of CC running towards me. But I remember him telling me at that time, like, I'm gonna Link here. And at this point, we're in an awkward spot because we have to kind of stop Chuck from getting CC'd as much as we can. There's Earthen also, so I'm kind of like in the spot where I have to go back towards the Earthen, which is towards Chuck, but he has Fair up, and then this gets a triple Fair out of the, on us here, which is a mistake again, kind of from me. We do stop follow-up CC, so Chuck is kind of completely fine. We get 2 stops into, I think, a Hex on Myra, which is huge, this block. They're at this point really behind. Red is now at 20-30% mana. A full stun on him. I think this gets the majority. That's 2 Radiances there and Pain's up. We're in a really good spot now, and we still have Zone, AMS, and Trinket, plus Darkness, so we're really pretty fine in cooldowns. We do get reverse burnt there as well, though. And at this point, Red is completely owned, so this is the end point for us. He's got Rapture up, and they use some cooldowns on me. Second Combustion, we use range everything in response, but again, Red is totally owned. The game is, from our point of view, more or less over. We still have Zone to work with, and I have Trinket for it, but we're in a very safe spot. And at this point, Red goes down. But kind of my thoughts on this first matchup is, again, we got the perfect possible result in terms of it was a matchup that we thought, generally speaking, we can definitely lose that. It's definitely one of those things you can lose, but at the same time, it's our best chance, I guess, as a comp against that. So even though it can be scary, kind of lucky that things went our way, and we didn't make any. It's very easy to make big mistakes against that kind of comp, I think, as well. And I think we're kind of lucky that we didn't have big overlaps on the moment that he bombed. We only had link traded there, and other than that, I think we're kind of okay. I remember at this point we were kind of like, it definitely. I was really nervous at this point for sure, and we hadn't really tested, like our kind of limited our amount of testing against Rogue Mage specifically was like one set of war games, 3 or 4 live sessions, but live sessions aren't really the same thing. They aren't anywhere near the same as TR kind of gear. The kind of damage that Rogue Mage does, the kind of damage that we do, it's just everything's so different. The tankiness of both comps, very different. So we were definitely like kind of not really sure. Certainly I wasn't very sure. Our experience on LAN against Rogue Mage, we played it twice. Once against Waz's team, and I believe once against Azito's team. And that gave us, I think it was pretty favorable in both situations, but at the same time, we didn't know, like we hadn't played against Ryder's team, and it was kind of like only a couple times against. We weren't sure. Certainly the next game that we played against Making a Movie, we did not expect the pick they had at all. We really feel like this is a good matchup for us. Again, because of the fact that the Frost Mage really isn't a Frost Mage against Death Knight anymore. I can't be slow below 70% because of Death's Advance. Krill has infinite mobility with his leaps, with his Fel Rushes and his bench and all that kind of thing. And we have Chains of Ice, which is 70%, so he doesn't have that. Myro can't kite us very well. So it seems on paper like a pretty good matchup for us. The things we've got working against us are dampening. They can survive pretty well. We don't actually, as this comp, as DK, we're definitely weakest against Resto Shamans, in that we can't own them really very effectively, and when they're actually owned, they kind of coast very well. We also can't kill them because of Pack Spirit, so they kind of have a few things working for them. So we go into the game, and again, we're pretty happy at this point. We don't really know how the damage is going to feel because we haven't played against too many like Shadow Priests. And there's actually a few different builds Shadow Priests are playing at this event, and on live as well. We weren't sure if he's going to play the Mind Blast trait with Vampiric Touch, which he actually does play. We don't know how that's going to feel in terms of being a Death Knight against that. We've only played, our kind of number of games on Death Knight in general at this point was maybe 100 to 150, which is, I think, pretty low for like an event of this kind of, for the big event. It's scary in terms of we haven't tested every matchup out. We certainly haven't played this matchup before. But at the same time, we had a nice grip go at the start. I think that's pretty a best case scenario. And we kind of start to feel like at this point, right away, like very, very quickly, we kind of start to think, oh, well, this seems like a good matchup for us. We're just doing a lot of damage to him. I think they get a full Hex on Chuck and they trade Death Strikes. That's it. No Shell, no IPF. And they use a full combo for that. That was Silence as well. And Minded. I think Myro made some really good choices there too. But we were kind of lucky. He didn't play Ice Nova. He played the, which I think is, I'm not sure if it's stronger, slower, or if it's damage on something. But either way, Ice Nova heals me if I play Azerite Fort. I wasn't playing Azerite Fort. I was actually playing Triple Impassive Visage instead, so it was really hard to kill and really tanky and just had a lot of healing. We kind of like win that kind of mind game. A lot of times you're gonna see orbs happen and Chuck just drop another and us just stand in the orb. Not this time, but in general, like that's something to look out for. Sure. One thing we're trying to do as well, me and Ryan, in these matchups, is we're trying to line up double stuns. So he stuns, he'll stun healer, and I'll stun the mage, or we'll do grip goes. We try and every kind of 30 to 40 seconds line up those kinds of goes. What we had kind of working against us though was the fact that it really felt like our damage on mage was extremely high. We made a few mistakes based on that. We also get red at them pretty quickly, but it's hard to kill and capitalize on it. But we definitely, our game plan is to rush mage, and it felt like a lot of times later on in the game, we end up gripping a lot. We traded Shell F for a poly into Fair, but I don't think we have to trade too much else. That was poly Fair song, I believe. Alright, just trying to get drinks the entire time. He snipes a little one here. One thing we found out, I think, a little before this game was that pets are kind of bugged this match, and even though I'm trying to send a pet on him the entire game, and I'm using like the standard attack focus or whatever macros that I want to do. I'll send it on Rata, but it'll come back to me after I use an ability. I think, or I use an ability, it'll just kind of run back over and over again. You can kind of see it doing it right now, even like kind of runs back, does something, and runs back towards him. Really strange. Apparently, it's a bug with the new combat system, with the fact that pets no longer generate combat. My pet's actually just being silly the entire game, but it's really important to keep him drinking. We end up changing it later on to just Tech Mage because it bugs out so much. You have Ryan on Velea a bit here, and I think that's something that we probably should capitalize on more. Realistically, he actually is playing the VT into Mind Blast trait, so if we are locking him down, his damage drops quite a bit, and also he ends up using a lot of Void Eruptions as the game goes into that. He'll start using it quite a bit, and I think every time that happens, especially in dampening, that's just a dead priest. Died at Coolons from Purges, and we really don't tend to attack him too much. We tend to think, well, we're getting Coolons from this mage the entire time. We've already gotten point. I think we've gotten 0 blocks at this point. Start to get blocks pretty quickly, and it just feels like our damage and pressure is good. We're booming out. It feels like we're winning the game now. So here's the situation when Veli actually goes Void Form, and the spike on me is pretty ridiculous. We don't capitalize on it. I don't remember why we didn't capitalize. Again, I guess we just felt like we were winning, and that damage on Mage was solid enough that if we keep running at him. The thing is, once you start running on Mage, it's really hard to get back to him again, unless he walks into me. Really, as a Death Knight, you kind of have to really keep walking at something, or you've got no gap closes, so you have to grip me his blink. So like your kind of ability to stay on target a Mage is like continually relentlessly attack it. And again, really, look, we haven't traded any major clones at this point either. We haven't used IBF once. We've used a couple shells. We've used 0 AMZs, and we've used 0 darkness. I think Chuck is like mostly earthing orbs, and it just really felt like there's a shell there from us. It really hasn't felt too scary. And even the CC on Chuck, for the most part, mages aren't getting, the mages getting sheeps. Like Myro isn't really getting too many sheeps. Generally, it's Rata getting is the first block for us. He actually goes to like 3 or 4%. Actually, really close moment. We were pretty excited. I remember like that particular moment. We thought we could have won it right then. Now we kind of knew the amount of damage coming in and handled it really well. From our point of view at this point, we're just talking about how well the game's going. I guess our communication is pretty positive. We feel like we're in a good spot. Obviously, we're like. Dark looks pretty intense, so we're really cautious for sure, but it's one of those things where we still feel like, at least from my point of view, it felt like we won. But the damage does, we're 60% dampening now, so things start to feel a little more scary, and DKs can get left in some pretty awkward spots. We have to run the middle of the map. The ability to get to a pillar, if things do start to go wrong, the ability to get to a pillar is pretty limited. Your moments to reset are very, very far in between. Here's the second block, and we've got like a nice 3-minute window to kill at this point. He comes up, pops veins instantly. I actually respond by using a Holy Frenzy Head to heal. We use it to try and get as much. I mean, we try and get pressure as well, but at the same time, it's a moment where I just want to try and make sure I'm generating as much reading power as I can to get as much healing out as I can, but I can't die if Chuck gets CC'd. I end up going Chuck instead, but he, I think, is pretty much fine. He does have a silence for him, but I don't think he used it. He does use Sansa, but Chuck's mana pillar, so he's fine. They get a lot of pressure on me here. I think I use Shell. His strong meta from Trill is this 4-minute meta. The full CC chain on Chuck, and we trade it for Shell and Ascendance from Chuck as well. This is one of those spots where it's like DHDK against the rest of Shamans. He has gotten a few little tiny drinks, and he wouldn't have gotten any if the pit actually still attacked him. At the same time, though, it doesn't really feel like mana is that great of a condition, or mana burn is that great of a conditioning against Shaman teams, unless you have like a lot of pressure, which we don't have that much. I mean, our damage, our ability to like go for kill pressure is pretty limited. At this point, we're most playing down. We use Zone Hound. We're actually kind of starting to get afraid. We've still got Shell, we've still got IBF, and we've still got Petsuck and Darkness. There's a reverse from Ryan as well, and that same combo, so we're starting to feel a little afraid. We've got Shell on 4. A Pelican, which I think I'm pretty happy with. And we Earthen that well, the crazy thing about Earthen Shield Totem is that like literally I can sit in an orb and it won't do any damage. Your health just stays the same. Nice and get from. So what happened there was Ryan actually incapped his Earthen Shield Totem to keep his health low for as long as he could, but it also ended up being kind of defensive at the same time. Get me from having to use Shell, which I think we have to use pretty soon. No, we don't have to use that issue. But a combo from Billy coming in a second. But he's getting pretty close to me, 43 seconds until his block comes back up. I think he does get another block in this game. But it's red as a sentence to get there. We still have a lot to work with as well. This should be Trill's Darkness in just a second now. It's going to be a full hex, I think, onto check at some point now. I think your guy's going to push for it right now. The Darkness is full hex. Unfortunately, we had to trade a lot there to try and we use Link, we used Petsack, and we used Darkness because the Darkness dropped and they hit me through it. It may have been Weak Darkness. I think it was actually Weak Darkness. He's playing, yeah, it's Weak Darkness. He's playing Reverse. The three talents that Trill's playing in this matchup are Reverse Magic, Mana Burn, and Strong Incap. So it's actually Weak Darkness. He hits me through it, and we have to trade a whole bunch of cooldowns to survive it. And this is the first reset of the game for us. You can kind of see how much damage you trade, or how much you trade to get to a pillar. End up getting low before we have to wait a long time in dampening as well to get topped. Projectiles at this point to run back in. We start to have Shell in 20 with Zone coming up on the way in as well, but I'm pretty sure just getting back in we have to use Zone because of just how much damage we take. And this is one of the spots as well where once you stop attacking a mage, suddenly he has the kind of like ability to bully you with positioning and push you around, whereas, you know, if we are on him for a little while, he kind of can't kite me very well at all. And we've got Ratatouille at this point too. Should be a block pretty soon now, maybe even right now. That's the last block. And at this point we've got a long time until the next block, so we're afraid, they're afraid. Dampening definitely does not feel like it favors us at all. Death Knight healing especially does not scale well at this point. It doesn't feel like. We kind of didn't expect that. We hadn't played, you know, like I said, too many games at this, I think probably almost no games at this level of dampening. But DK healing at this point does not feel very strong at all. When we started to really see it at this point, I remember we were kind of counting down cooldowns. And we're terrified. We kind of like at a certain point, it felt like we were winning. And then suddenly it's like, well, after that first reset, are we winning this? And I think at this point we actually count down Death Pact cooldown. We got to just dead. I have no runic power. We've got 5 seconds on Death Pact. And I don't know how we live. I'm not entirely sure what we're talking about here. I think Chuck just gets a whole bunch of heals off. Death Pact comes back up, we don't need to use it anymore though. You do use it pretty soon, I'm pretty sure, but yeah. We had a solid 6 seconds there where we didn't have anything. And this life swap is also, they've got no cooldowns left now at all. We use Death Pact as well. But then dampening, Death Pact is actually a pretty weak cooldown. It's really just trading health to keep you, I mean, it's almost kind of like a bluff in a way where you're actually necrotic like crazy. Your health's actually a lot lower than it actually, you know, than it appears if they can damage into it. But you are like kind of temporarily alive. And at this point we have to reset for a second time. We've got no cooldowns at all. We've got Zone coming in 10 seconds. And Earthen's up again. So we probably could have taken advantage of the fact that Villy's kind of low too. But Nage with no blocks feels like a good target. This is Earthen. Actually, let's check Earthen. Go check it. I get to move out of it in a second now, but this is kind of our moment to push for a kill. Sure. That's Temp, and it didn't get much out of it. Totally Ratify, Mage with relatively used Link to stay in and stay offensive. We've still got a Reverse to work with, we've still got Shell to work with. And at this point, they've got nothing. So I think at this point we're gonna kind of win. We got the double stun at the very end. Mage blinks, and then that's the end of that one. We get kind of lucky. I think there was that one point where we were kind of just dead, and I don't remember exactly what happened to survive that, but I do remember like kind of counting down. I've got Death Pact in 6, 5, 4, 3, and I remember Sam saying he thought we were dead. I definitely felt like we were dead, and I think they played that really well to get to that point. I do think that maybe that was a matchup that if we played it a little differently and capitalized on Void Eruptions more, we probably could have killed Priest at a much earlier point. I think even just any Void Eruption go could have been Disperse and then every cooldown, like Disperse Link. There probably were certain spots where he eruptioned when they didn't have a Link available. I'm sure I didn't look at every single one, but if we'd capitalized on every single Void Eruption, I think the game would have been probably a little smoother. I still think that matchup's pretty favorable for us, especially on the map. So we could reset, like any other map, we could reset a lot more. So I think they played a matchup that was probably tough for them really well and made it tough for us. And they lock in Frost Mage, Resto Shaman, Assassination Rogue, which is kind of interesting because they're basically playing off the fact that there's no way in hell that if we get to that kind of point in dampening, that a Death Knight would live against an Assassination. So it's actually a pretty cool pick in a lot of ways. I still think we definitely look at that and we're like, okay, well, that's still a favorable matchup for us. Still a Frost Mage, and I think DKs in general, like I said, probably enjoy attacking Frost Mages. They can't slow us, we can slow them. So we're going to have a lot of uptime on the Mage. We're going to have Mana Burn for the Shaman still. So it's still a good matchup. But you add an Assassination Rogue in, which means they've got a lot more like kill potential. You bring the EMS from him, more damage, I think more damage over time. And also more consistent like goes with stuns. Plus blind DI, which means that blind kind of forces you don't have trinket. So it's kind of interesting. The Shaman brings longevity to it. It's kind of like playing Rogue Maid. It's a little less offensive in that they don't have Fair anymore, but they do have infinite mana. They've got a lot of time to work with, and quite literally the best healer against it. I think it's opening now, and I don't know how the opener goes here. I think Ryan might get him out. Actually, Ryan gets out accurate, which is great for us. I didn't get a quick triple go. You get a full kidney on me. You don't trade Vendetta right away. You just trade Elden Shield. No CC on this one. And that's one of the things that's really important about this particular comp is that suddenly when they do get like a go on me, it's harder to follow it up with, and there's no Fair to work with. It's just too kind of like a less offensive RMP. And it ends up being kind of easier for us to bully the Mage because of that. Like we're less afraid to, against RMP you may have to run away as Death Knight quite a bit. Against this. They're trying to bully Chuck while Mage bullies me. But we've got Chains of Ice for the Rogue. Generally, there's Vendetta on me though, and we've traded IBF and Shell, which is actually a lot. But considering it's harder for them to force CC on the big chains on Chuck, not as scary as it looks. So one of the great things about being a Death Knight into this matchup is that you saw just then, Mage got an Ebon Bolt on me, but at the same time, you can Death Strike is really powerful against that. And here's the sneaky part about this game right here. You'll notice that the Mage actually is and you might have seen there as well that Ryan was actually mana burning him. He just used Mana Break on him, and this is one of those things that Ryan decided literally before, like in the starting area. He's like, I'm gonna play Break this game. He's playing it, I think, instead of reverse. He's actually not playing reverse because the idea was we figured we should be able to stop every poly anyway. There's 2 kicks and ground. There's actually 3 kicks and ground. So we figured we didn't really need it. We've got plenty of stops for polymorphs. And he played Break instead. And what Myra's doing is he's trying to play really aggro with his purges. He's zoomed himself. And he's also being burned by Trill at the same time. So the first mana rate got him to like, I think 20k, or sorry, 20%. And he actually had temp up for that. Pretty scary. I'm not sure if they know at this point that it's mana break. They may probably speculate it. I don't know if any mages have been mana broken before. But in this case, I think Ryan decided in the previous game, hey, he's zooming himself a lot. He's a full blind into Chucky trinkets right away. Full kidney into me. But there's no Vendetta available, so we don't use anything for it. He gets get kicked. Fine. Shell and run and heal a few. And a lot of times we're using cooldowns kind of just to stay aggro. We know we've got Vendetta up at this point. We're definitely kind of a little bit afraid. Myra is totally in. I think Mana Break happens right there. And the game literally was 100% won by Ryan's decision to play Mana Break. I think 0 polys happen that game. Because really, as the mage in that matchup, it's really hard to get polys. Priest Fair is a huge part of the way that they can kind of get big combos off with kidney fairs and all kinds of stuff like that. But in this case, the matchup ends up, I think, being more favorable, and especially more favorable when we have Mana Break on the team. When you have a Mana Break to work with, it becomes he died with that blocking, but I feel like in that case there, for the most part, like you wouldn't know to block because we don't have that kind of burst potential. Making a move, are a fantastic team. It was a really tough series. The 3-0 scoreline definitely doesn't kind of. I mean, for one, we won. Winning the blind pick, that was huge for us. Like having the match we won on the blind pick was massive. I'm not sure what comp we would have liked to see would have been the scariest for us, but really any of the second game could have easily gone their way. And if they played in the third game, I'm not sure what would happen. If that last game had gone to 2 blocks, I'm not sure what would happen either. I think if they get to dampening, if we're kind of on the time limit there, because if they get to dampening, I think we lose. But Mana Break was a huge adjustment by Ryan that probably won us that game and probably won us that series, because if the game had gone out, like if the game had dragged out as with the Shadow Priest game, which it easily could have, I think Rogue Mage with a Shaman may have won dampening. So again, a much closer series than it looked. Definitely a scary series and a huge one. I think a pretty huge one for me, at least personally. It was a huge. It felt great to be playing my Death Knight again and being able to be of value to the team in that matchup. So thank you so much to everyone for the support. It's been huge. It's been amazing. This was definitely the most fun tournament I've played in. Yeah, thank you guys so much for all the support as always. Love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.